another witness, there's another witness. Then there would be the charge conference.
Correct?
Then there would be, if there are alterations to the instructions, that has to be done.
Correct?
And we would all have to review them.
Correct?
And then the court's going to read them. That is the plan.
That is my plan. I'm going to talk to the jurors about that because that's going to require that they have a lengthy break. It's not ideal. It just not working out for me.
I know that I'm not high on the totem pole, especially when it comes to the jurors, but I need a little bit of time to get my closing argument together. I mean, let me just finish. You can.
He can't hear you. He just wants you to speak up.
I need a little bit of time to get my closing argument together, and I was looking forward to this afternoon to do that.
Well, I understand that, but this is, I mean.
We're going to charge him today, though.
Yeah, I understand. And I give you permission to leave when I'm reading. But listen, I hear you, and let's just see how it goes. But that's my intention. Let me talk to them. I mean, because the packet of instructions could take 25 minutes for me to read to them. And there we are, and then we're leaking into, 4 hours of closings before we start up each side. I guarantee there's going to be needed a bathroom break. I'm just doing all the math. And so let's see how it's going, and then I'll take it as it comes. All right? And I'll talk to the jurors. So I think we left off with Miss Ellis was still on cross.
I hear you. And I do want to say, though, I mean, literally, it's coming in about a week shorter than we thought it was, and it's still only Wednesday tomorrow. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Okay. Let's bring them in. All right, everybody have a seat. Jurors, did I get you back there while your food was still hot? I'm sorry. So hopefully, and was it okay? Everybody's okay? And all right, we're ready to get started. Remember where we left off? The state, Miss Ellis, was still cross-examining the doctor, and I think she's got a little more work to do. And you take your time, ma'am. You're perfectly fine.
So before we broke for lunch, Dr. Nelson, just want to be clear, because the point where I was getting ready to get into your report, and you and I had some back and forth about Dr. DeMaio's book and the example that you gave. Just so that we're clear, and I want to make sure that I'm clear for the jury, make sure that you're clear for the jury. The shredded heart that you referred to in Dr. DeMaio's book, that person was able to run or travel another 65 feet before collapsing, correct?
That's what he describes, yes.
And the example that you gave us in the autopsy that you performed, that person traveled approximately 36 feet based on what you told us, correct?
Roughly, yes.
Okay. And both of those are much less than 123 feet, correct?
Those are only, Miss Ellis, 2 examples. The literature talks about people that are...
Ask, if you would please just
All right.
ask the witness
Okay,
to...
so just everybody pause. And then Doc, as you know, Mr. Lubin's going to get a chance to get up and redirect you as well. We'll try to get a little rhythm going here where you ask a question, but he does have a right to explain. But let's just try to get this thing going. Okay, Doc, so just try to listen to the question and answer that one, and then I promise you, Lubin's taking copious notes over there. Go ahead.
My question was, in both of those examples that you gave us, that we talked about, both of those are less than 123 feet, correct?
Yes.
Let's look at your report now. I want to go through the injuries internally from the chest wound. Now, Dr. Juice noted that he had, when the bullet entered his body, it entered fracturing 2 ribs on the right side, the 5th and 6th, correct?
Yes. It actually went through, no, it didn't fracture the 5th. It went through the intercostal space, which is between the ribs. So 5th rib, 6th rib. It actually fractured the top part of the 6th rib. So only 1 rib.
Okay. Okay. In your report, you state here fracturing 2 ribs on the right side, 5th and 6th.
Well, that's how initially it looked like from what she was describing.
And the other injury noted is the upper and middle lobes of the right lung, correct?
Yes.
And when we talk about the upper and middle lobe of the right lung, we're talking about pretty much half of that person's lung, correct?
No.
The upper to middle lobe?
Well, the lobes, yes, but what we're talking about here is a gunshot perforation through those lobes, so it's a hemorrhagic wound cavity that's probably a little bit smaller than the diameter of your little finger. So it's not half the lung.
And when you say hemorrhagic, you
Bloody. Bloody.
and we'll get to that. The other one, the other injury you note is the right atrium of the heart,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
The aorta, correct?
Yes.
The pulmonary artery,
Yes.
correct? The upper and lower lobes of the left lung, correct?
Yes.
The left rib,
Yes.
correct? Okay. Now, you also mentioned in your report, you talk about the blood that was recovered from the chest cavity. And you note, and it's taken from Dr. Juice's report as well, that there was 1,000 milliliters of blood from the left chest. I'm sorry, from the right chest, correct?
Yes.
And the left chest had 400 milliliters of blood, correct?
Yes.
And that represented to you, and you noted in your report, that that's about a loss of 28% of blood loss,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
All right. And blood loss of that magnitude, and these are your words in your report, you indicate blood loss of this magnitude may constitute hemorrhagic shock, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you tell, when we talk about hemorrhagic shock, some of the symptoms of hemorrhagic shock include immediate anxiety, correct?
Yes.
Nausea,
Sure.
fatigue,
Yes.
weakness,
Yes.
loss of consciousness,
Eventually.
shallow breathing
Yep.
prior to loss of consciousness,
Yes.
dizziness prior to loss of consciousness,
Yes.
confusion prior to loss of consciousness.
Yes.
So, based on what we know that happened to Corey's heart, these are all of the symptoms that he would have been experiencing upon sustaining that gunshot wound to the heart, correct?
Yes.
I want to talk to you about an area in your report where you talk about just ammunition, okay, caliber of ammunition. Now, would you agree, Dr. Nelson, that the caliber of ammunition, the size of the ammunition makes a difference in how much damage is done to the heart?
Yes.
When it enters?
Yes.
And so, if someone, for instance, in the example that we used, that we talked about from Dr. DeMayo's book, we talked about it being a shotgun, and it was 22 caliber, well, 22
.22 caliber is not a shotgun.
caliber, small, little rifle ammunition.
Are we
right?
talking about rifle ammunition, or are we talking about a shotgun?
We're talking about the 12-gauge shotgun.
That's not 22 caliber rifle ammunition.
That they describe as 22.
Who described?
Dr. DeMayo.
No, it wouldn't be describing it as 22 caliber if it's a shotgun.
Well, are you familiar with it?
I'm very familiar with guns, yes.
Okay, so-
You would not describe a shotgun as a 22 caliber
So let me.
under any circumstances.
So when he refers to the person being shot with a 22 rifle and it shreds his heart, what is?
No, you're completely confusing the two kinds of ammunition. You're confusing a shotgun with a rifle wound.
And that ammunition,
Which ammunition?
I'm talking about the ammunition referring to the shredded heart.
That's a shotgun wound. It's not 22, it's a shotgun.
That's smaller in size to the 40 caliber.
Ma'am, you need to understand the terminology.
Sir, I'm asking you.
No, pause. No. Go. Doc,
She's misconstruing the terminology.
explain it from your view and then be ready for a
A
question.
shotgun is a smoothbore weapon that is 12 gauge, 14 gauge, 20 gauge, and it has to do with the size of the pellets that are the diameter of the internal bore that equal a pound. So a shotgun would never be used analogy of a 22 rifle. A 22 rifle is much smaller than a shotgun wound would be.
So when he is describing this shotgun rifle,
It's not, a shotgun is smooth bore, and a rifle has riflings on the inside of the barrel. That's why it gets the name rifle. A shotgun is completely smooth bore, so they're two different animals. It's apples and oranges.
My question to you is, when he's referring to this example in his book, he's referring to a caliber of ammunition that's smaller than a 40 caliber, correct?
No, he's not. Not on a shotgun. No, he's not. A shotgun is larger than the 40 caliber. The individual pellets that make up the wound are small, but they all come out of the end of the barrel together.
So when we're talking about the pellets, and we're talking about how the pellets, you described for us earlier that the pellets actually, and I think you said this during your direct testimony, that because the person was 3 to 4 feet away, the pellets are going to actually, you don't expect them to actually spread out like that because of the distance between the person and the shotgun. You expect them to sort of kind of just go in.
Be like a ball. Be like a ball. They're all held together relatively close like a ball. They don't start to spread out until we're 5, 6 feet away muzzle target distance.
Okay. And when he's describing this, this shredded heart, he describes it in terms of pellets.
Shotgun pellets.
Exactly, shotgun pellets. And the shotgun pellets,
All in a ball are what shred the heart.
wait for my question. The shotgun pellets are different than the 40 caliber hollow round bullet that entered Corey's heart.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Now, I want to go to your report, Dr. Nelson, where you talk about a study in Miami, and you note that the Dade County Medical Examiner's Office observed several of the victims continued to be physically active after injury. Movements varied from staggering a few paces to running several blocks to running up a flight of stairs, correct?
Yes.
So you have this variation in how far a person is able to go, meaning you've said, your opinion is that Corey Jones could have run 41 yards, 123 feet. Based on your report, though, you indicate here that there are instances where a person is shot in the heart and they're only able to travel a few paces, as you put it, correct?
Yes.
And when you describe it as a few paces, That
That's
would
not,
be-
that's not my terminology. That's the authors of the Dade County study.
Okay, all right, all right.
That's in italics and in quotations. That's from the article.
That's what you wrote in your report, that's what you took from whatever literature they have and you incorporated into your report?
That's correct, from their study,
Okay,
1988.
okay. Judge, if I can have just a second, please.
Of course you can.
Now, Dr. Nelson, I want to go back to the wounds regarding the wounds that Corey Jones sustained on his arms. You don't have an opinion as to whether or not he was holding a gun at the time he sustained those injuries, do you?
No, sir. No, ma'am, I don't.
And that wound to his left arm, and that's the wound that I'm talking about with the elbow, had he been holding anything in his left hand, that wound that he sustained would have immediately caused him to drop whatever he would have had in his hand, correct?
Most likely.
Now, I want to talk to you about the wound that you talk about, the chest wound, that you says comes into the right below the nipple. And when you gave an illustration to the jury, you stood up and you kind of turned to the side like that. So based on, did you review photographs in this case?
A long time ago.
Okay. And so you're familiar with the way the entrance wound looks on his chest, correct?
Yes.
And so based on the way the wound enters into that right side of his chest, you would agree that when the defendant fired at him, that bullet would have been coming at an angle, correct?
From anatomic position, it goes upwards. And yes, it would have been coming, the shooter would have been on his right side, Corey Jones's right side would have been closest to the shooter.
And if this is Corey, and he's running with his back to the shooter, he's got 2 injuries already to the back of his arms. If he turns like that, and the moment he turns like that, and he's shot right here, that would be consistent with that injury that he has to his chest, correct?
Yes, he has to present that portion of his chest towards the gun.
And when a bullet enters at that angle like that, it causes that marginal abrasion that you see, correct?
The marginal abrasion defines the entrance wound. It has nothing to do with the angle. It's just the bullet hits the skin for a split second. It rubs it raw as it enters. It has nothing to do with how fast that bullet is spinning. The fastest bullet spins 1 revolution in 3.5 linear feet. So it's not like the bullet is corkscrewing through the air. It's very slow through the air, but the bullet's moving fast. Hits the skin, dimples it, punctures the skin, and as it goes through, it rubs raw the outside, and that's what we define as a entrance wound, is that marginal abrasion.
And that marginal abrasion you would see, depending on the angle, you're going to see more of it depending on what angle that bullet is coming from.
Correct. It may have a teardrop type appearance. It may be elliptical. Yes.
Judge, if I can just have a moment, please.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have one more question for you, Dr. Nelson. The injury that, I want to go back to the example that you gave us of the autopsy that you performed
Actually, it was an associate in my office, but my office performed the autopsy, but it's not me personally.
Yes, sir. One other person in your office did it.
Yes.
So, can you tell us what other injuries the person sustained along with that gunshot wound to the heart?
Chest injuries, I believe there's injuries to the rib cage, and there may be injuries to a lung as well.
You say you believe, do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've looked at that report.
Nothing further. Thank you, Your
Okay.
Honor.
Redirect, Mr. Lubin.
Doctor, just a few follow-up questions.
Yes, sir.
Your testimony about what a person can do and is capable of doing after injuries, it's assuming a catastrophic injury to the heart. I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
Exactly, and that's what gets written up. Those are the articles that are authored and find their way into textbooks. Yes, the unusual.
But it isn't dependent on exactly what part of the heart was destroyed, or it just generally, all of these various stories assume a catastrophic injury that's devastating.
Exactly. If this was simply a grazed wound through something and it nicked one structure or another, it's doubtful someone would write that up. But it's the more catastrophic injury that is so noteworthy that makes its way into an article and then makes its way into a textbook.
Of the thousands and thousands and thousands of injuries that occur and are seen every year in medical examiner offices, right?
Yes, yes.
It's a small percentage of the ones that get written up.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And it really isn't about the catastrophic injury to the heart. It's really about the oxygen to the brain.
Exactly, and what someone can do after this devastating injury.
Because literally, could you take the heart out of the body and you still have 10 to 15 seconds?
That is correct. Chicken with their head cut off. That chicken still runs around without its head. That's the kind of response we're speaking of.
Not comparing this to that, but
No.
by way of example.
Yes.
Okay. But I want to talk about these two incidents that have been discussed, but then generally I want to talk about more. In the instance that your office handled, where the man ran down a flight of stairs, across a way, and then up a flight of stairs and knocked on the door. We don't know how long he was knocking on the door.
No, we do not.
We don't know how long before he began to run down the stairs.
That is correct.
It could have been within the 10 to 15 second time span, and that he was out of oxygen when he fell.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that that's necessarily all he could have run.
That is correct.
It matters what else he might have done.
That is correct.
Okay.
He knew he had a next-door neighbor that was right next to him in the duplex.
Now, you were asked about hemorrhagic shock
Yes.
on cross-examination. Does that in any way affect your 10 to 15 second time period?
Well, if anything, it may even prolong it because we have this fight or flight, this adrenaline release that makes you even more able to do wild things with the increased flow of adrenaline to your heart.
So the hemorrhagic shock could actually prolong the period of time that you could run?
By that adrenaline release.
Now, I just want to make sure that I understand. We're focused on a couple of examples that we've used, but you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of examples in the literature, correct?
Yes.
Taught in medical school?
Taught during fellowship, taught during board exam reviews. Again, this is not something that is unheard of or that people don't know about. Perhaps they don't know about it if they've not reviewed the literature.
In that regard, and without disrespect intended, but is Dr. Giust's opinion out of the mainstream?
Yes.
Overruled.
Yes, it is.
Do you know of any other medical examiner that holds such a?
Pause. New question.
Is it common knowledge in the field of pathology that this phenomena exists?
If anyone has read either of those two books, yes, it's common knowledge. And again, those two books are part of the preparation for board exams.
And also in other literature?
Yes,
Both foreign and American literature?
Yes.
Correct?
yes.
As a matter of fact, I think, didn't you cite, one of the stories you cited was from France?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the shotgun conversation that you had, back and forth, just want to clear something up. At 3 feet, the shotgun blast would do what? What would the
The pellets coming out of the shotgun at 3 feet would be of the diameter of the shotgun itself. So if the shotgun is, say, 3/4 of an inch wide in diameter, then that's the hole that is going to be made in the body at 3 feet. It's not until you get beyond that, out typically around 6 feet, that you start to see individual pellets penetrating the skin individually. The closer muzzle target distance that you are, those pellets are the diameter of the end of the muzzle of the shotgun.
And-
So that's the hole that's going to be drilled into the body.
and at 3 feet?
It would be
At 3 feet or 4 feet?
Yes, it would be the diameter of the barrel of the shotgun.
And are there anecdotal stories in the literature of people running a lot farther than
Yes.
Mr. Jones ran with similar injuries?
Exactly. The article from Dade County that Ms. Ellis referenced, running several blocks. Several blocks, to me, would be certainly more than 40 yards, 120 feet. Several blocks, several city blocks in Dade County.
With catastrophic injuries similar to Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Doctor, you may. Never mind.
There's no way to determine whether or not the arm wounds happened before or after the catastrophic wound to the heart.
No, sir.
And so you can't assume that the arm shots happened first and had any effect on it.
No, sir. No way to tell.
And even if they happened first, those wouldn't have affected Mr. Jones's ability to run the distance.
That's correct.
No further questions.
Now you may step down, doctor. Watch your step. Thank you very much. And if you put the jury in the jury room for me, if you turn your pads upside down, don't talk about the case. Lawyers, while they're heading out, could you come up here, please? Take about 3 minutes, and I'm going to come back. And Mr. Raja, it's at that time I'm going to talk to you, and I think you know about what, and your attorneys want a little time to talk to you, so we'll take a few minutes, and then I'll come in and I will inquire. Okay. To testify or not?
He's choosing not to.
All right, and so, Mr. Raja, I told you I would inquire at this juncture, and I tell everybody, most of the time during the trial, you got legal strategy, and that's, lawyers, that's what they're here for. But this is the one area that you're the captain of the ship. And the reason I go through this inquiry, and I like to keep people informed, is because if there is a conviction in the case, what I avoid is later on, and trust me, I get lots of letters from folks who then say, Judge, I wanted to testify, but my lawyer said not to testify, because I inquire personally of the defendant, and they can't say that to me because I say, it's your choice. So, Mr. Raja, have you had enough time to speak to your lawyers? And you've come to a decision that you are choosing not to testify in this case. Now, I know you were present during this, and it feeds into my comment that I say all the time, which is people love their judges to follow the law, As long as it's law they agree with. Following the law is a difficult thing, so when I instruct the jury during jury selection that the defendant has the right to not testify and to remain silent, you see how vigorous I am with the jury, and that's my job. And my job is to follow the law, and you saw how vigorous I was with this jury to instruct them that the law. And so you saw all that, and it is your decision now not to testify, correct? Okay. Now, defense, you want to rest in front of the jury and state, do you have any rebuttal?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So that would mean the presentation of evidence is over. So, as I've sat here after thinking about all this, I got a feeling this charge conference could take a while in getting everything organized. So I am going to send the jury home. I got to read them the instructions in the morning, and that's the way. It'll just be a lot more organized. And as the lawyers know, jury instructions is just a minefield of reversible error. So I want to slow down. I'll just stay here with the lawyers, and everybody's welcome to stay as well. But we'll get these jury instructions shaped up, listen to your legal arguments, and then get packets put together and have them waiting for the jury in the morning. Before I bring the jury out and have you rest in front of them, I'm going to be looking to start early. So I'm going to ask them how early they can be here, within reason. And so I'd like to start at 8, but let's see what they say. Okay, let's bring in the jury. Oh, you're okay? All right. No problem. Okay. Defense, anything further? The defense rests. So, that is the presentation of the evidence in this case. So as I told you yesterday, my prediction was a little off, but we are right where we thought we would be, just a short 2 hours. So what I'm going to do is excuse you early tonight, and tomorrow we're going to walk in the door. The first thing that's going to happen is you're going to pick up jury instructions. They're going to be sitting on your chairs, and I have to read them to you. I have to read them to you. It's one of those laws I don't like because I feel like you're adults, but the Supreme Court thinks that sometimes we would send juries back in there and they wouldn't even bother reading it. They would just reach a verdict. So I'm required to read them to you, and I want you to follow along with me. I want to make sure you have all the pages I have, and they're lengthy. They're lengthy. We're actually going to stay here and get them all in order for you so we hit the ground running tomorrow. I'm thinking for me to read them to you, it's going to take, I tend to go pretty fast, but Madam Court Reporter may yell at me because her little fingers are going to catch on fire. So I will try to slow down, and it'll take between 20 and 25 minutes would be my prediction for me to read to you. Then the lawyers are going to go, and remember what I said, so that 2 hours, 2 hours. I guarantee we're going to take a restroom break in between there. My intention would be to, once again, order you lunch. So when the lawyers are done with their closing arguments, my 6 jurors are going to go back there and begin deliberations while they eat. Takes us a while to get you the evidence, do things like that, but you'll be working on this case, deliberating, finally having your opportunity to talk about the case amongst yourselves. At that juncture, although I'm going to order lunch for all 10 of y'all, 4 of you are going to get to walk off with it. Because 4 of you are alternate jurors, and you get extra lunch. That's a small little gift I can give to you after all that you've done for us. So, does anybody have any questions? And my question to you is, if I ask you to be here at 8, is that just onerous childcare? I don't even recall where some of you are coming from. 8 beats a lot of that traffic. Is there anybody here, and I want you to be honest and don't worry about your fellow jurors or anybody else, can you be here, can everybody be here at 8? If you can't, just raise your hand for me. Then you know where to meet, 8 o'clock. I'm hoping to be right on time, get going, get you working. So now we are there. Please, 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 don't talk about the case. Don't talk talk about it with anybody, not at home. Don't Google, don't Facebook, don't Twitter. You know, I saw my kids make fun of me because I'm old, and so I call it the Facebook on purpose. So it drives them crazy. I don't call it just Facebook. And I saw Lady Gaga said the other day, social media is the toilet of the internet. I like the Gaga got it right. I call her the Gaga. So she got it right. Stay off of it. Stay off of it. It's nothing but trouble for me. So don't talk about the case. Don't Google, Facebook, Twitter. Don't look anything up. See you back here tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Leave your pads upside down. Yes, sir. No, you know your spot. Okay. You be at your spot. We'd like to get you in the courtroom at 8. Fantastic. Have a wonderful afternoon and evening. Thank you for your patience. All right, before we start working, and I'm going to take a little short break before we start talking about jury instruction. Everybody can have a seat. You were about to say something, or did I cover it for you?
No, I was going to say something. These two guys have been working on all of that, and they're going to argue it if it's okay with you. I'd like to head out.
Perfectly fine. Okay, so, and I'll just tell the citizens, we're going to take a little short break. Every single person that's here, you are welcome to stay and watch. Doing jury instructions might be the most boring thing we can do in the court, but it's a very important part of the process, and I have to really take my time. So you're welcome to stay, you're welcome to leave, whatever you'd like. And then I'm hoping to start promptly at 8 a.m. for all the folks that are here, everybody. I talking to both sides. Try to be prompt, because once we start, I don't want a whole lot of ruckus, people setting up and sitting down, and it just disturbs the process. And I want it to be as orderly as I possibly can, and I think that's it. So I'll take 5 to gather myself, and then we'll get to doing the jury instructions. I got a feeling somebody in the front row might be here to help you.
Yes, sir.
There she is. How are you? Welcome aboard. Have a seat right up there. You guys make yourselves comfortable, and we'll get started in about 5 minutes. You got it.